When I did my 2018 video on Microsoft, I stressed that they would really have to make some major moves in 2018 to regain any real foothold in the gaming arena, specifically the console market. They just released their new system, the X. I've been using it a lot lately, actually. I think it's a fine piece of hardware for the money. Oh, my gaming PC! Yeah, it didn't cost $500 and come with a game in many instances now. But anyway, the problem has been I don't really have many exclusives on it that I'm looking forward to, which is obviously a big factor when people choose to purchase a system. And well, it seems Microsoft may be making some serious moves in improving that aspect, possibly through some acquisitions, major ones. A recent article on Polygon mentioned that an unnamed source close to Microsoft, you can take that as you will, but an unnamed source mentioned that they were looking into these big acquisitions, and EA was at the top of the heap. Other notable ones they mentioned was the PUBG Corp and Valve. Jesus, that'd be a pretty crazy one too. The article went on to say that Microsoft has currently about $130 billion banked, and EA, Electronic Arts, is currently valued at about $35 billion. So the money is certainly there, not to mention it could possibly be a mix of cash and stock options that they offer if they were to try to purchase the company. Speaking of which, this rumor has even gone on to have a bit of an impact on the stock market and these company stock prices. But obviously, this isn't like walking into a store and buying a candy bar. This doesn't mean EA is necessarily looking to sell. But I could see it. EA hasn't exactly been hitting all home runs lately. We had the Battlefront loot box scandal. That was one of the biggest gaming news stories of last year. The Mass Effect Andromeda debacle. They've had studio closures, most recently Visceral. They've had a few problems. Not necessarily devastating. They're not, scrambling to pay the bills, but you would have to assume these things make a difference as opposed to if they were just nailing everything and all their games were just selling like crazy. Obviously, EA still owns some of the biggest IPs around, all their sports stuff. Studios like BioWare, there is a lot of value here. And imagine this, for instance, EA already has this EA Access thing on Xbox One, okay? A service that allows you to play a lot of their back catalog as well as try new games, which is awfully similar to Microsoft's Game Pass, which they just announced would include Microsoft's exclusives going forward. I mean, imagine this acquisition actually happening and all future EA titles being rolled into that service. Like I've mentioned, I'm not a fan of the sports simulators, just not my thing, but I cannot deny the popularity and demand for titles like Madden and FIFA. Imagine if, by subscribing to Xbox Game Pass, fans of these titles always had access to the most recent entries in these series. Especially with those sports games releasing on a yearly basis, that would be a solid amount of value. I mean, every year going in, you know you're going to have these. And I can tell you one thing, if I was in charge after such a takeover, my first order of business would be to fish that single-player Star Wars game that Visceral was working on out of the trash and restart development on that right away. Plus, don't forget this would have an impact on that upcoming Anthem game that is supposed to be like the big BioWare thing, but man, I don't think we've even heard much about it since E3, and I know there was a lot of rumor that it was going to be delayed, that they were going through major changes for the game, so its future is certainly in jeopardy, but obviously it's something that they are currently investing heavily on and betting big on, so, this would have an impact on that as well. So there are some possibilities here, but and let's just remind everyone, this is speculation and rumor, but this really goes for any acquisition Microsoft may scoop up. It really only matters if Microsoft lets them do their thing. Yes, you got to oversee them, but utilize these teams appropriately, which they don't actually have the strongest track record of doing. I mean, I bring it up in just about every video I discuss Microsoft in. Rare. They bought Rare and all of their once notable franchises, and for the longest time, they regulated the team to making stupid Kinect games. Only recently did Microsoft actually let them make something notable like Sea of Thieves, which, man, I hope that's good. I've heard mixed things about the beta, but I wasn't able to play it myself. I have my own concerns, but, Rare is a brand I could never actively root against, so I do hope that game is good. Anyway, I do think Microsoft has been waking up to their blunders here in the past couple years, and the blunders they've been making overall. I mentioned after I got the Xbox One X that this was the console we should have gotten at the beginning of this cycle. Not necessarily the same specs, but a console where the focus is playing games on it, not a box that allows you to watch TV and use your hands as the remote. You can talk to it to change the channel. Ugh, that initial reveal still to this day ticks me off. But it was a lesson, an expensive lesson, that Microsoft has been trying to make good on with the fans. Things like the backwards compatibility updates and this upcoming change that I mentioned to the Xbox Game Pass program. They demonstrate that they aren't content to just give up this generation, which I've seen many people say, like, hey, Microsoft, just call this a loss and come back better next time. Nope. Microsoft seems intent on climbing back into the thick of things, and if they did acquire EA, or any similar big company or combination of companies in the gaming industry, that would cement their commitment. I don't think you're going to drop billions on snatching up one of these big-time players without planning to get the maximum amount of value out of them. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how or if this develops at all. But with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on this possible EA acquisition by Microsoft in the comments. Would this make Xbox more appealing in your opinion? How can Microsoft turn things around for EA? Because, they'd have to do a little bit to work on that EA image problem as well. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.